Ayrton Senna's reputation wasn't built on hype. It was built on moments where he did things no one else on the grid could. Whether it was raw speed, control in changing conditions, or finding the edge when others backed off, Senna consistently delivered performances that made experienced drivers and teams take notice. These weren't just good laps or clever strategies, they were flashes of something beyond the norm. So, here are the times Senna proved exactly that.
How would you like to be remembered?
As a winner.
So picture this, it's Monaco 90 and Senna's about to do something completely mental. This isn't just any qualifying lap, this is the lap that made other drivers rethink what was possible. The guy's in a different zone. Through Saint-Devote, Casino Square down to Mirabeau, every single corner, he's placing the car within millimeters of the barriers, and I mean millimeters. The onboard footage looks like a video game on fast forward. What's insane, he goes 1 minute 21.314 seconds, almost half a second faster than Prost, at Monaco, where half a second might as well be 5 minutes. The other drivers are watching this thinking, how is that even possible? This wasn't just quick, it was perfection at 150 miles per hour through apartment buildings. He's threading a Formula 1 car through Monaco like it's a go-kart, except one tiny mistake means you're in someone's living room. That lap basically said, I own this place, without saying a word. Prost called it supernatural. Coming from your biggest rival, that tells you everything. So, Suzuka 90, Senna and Prost crash at turn 1 and the championship's decided the most controversial way possible. Everyone knows Senna did it on purpose, he basically admitted it later. But here's where it gets spicy. Jackie Stewart sits him down for an interview right after, shows him the crash footage and basically goes, wasn't that a bit dangerous? And Senna, without missing a beat, drops one of the coldest lines in F1 history.
By being a racing driver means you are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver.
The whole room just goes quiet. He's basically saying, yeah, I took him out and I'd do it again. It's pure Senna, no apologies, just raw honesty about what racing means to him. The guy was so pissed about getting pole on the dirty side of the grid, he decided the championship at turn 1. That quote became legendary because it wasn't just about racing, it was Senna telling the world he plays by his own rules. Stewart didn't speak to him for a year after that interview.
You are under risk all the time. And by being a racing driver means you are racing with other people. And if you no longer go for a gap that exists, you're no longer a racing driver. Because we are competing to win.
Brazil 91, Senna's home race. He's leading, crowds going mental, and then his gearbox starts dying. 4th gear gone, 5th gear gone, 3rd gear, see you later. So here's Senna, basically stuck in 6th gear trying to nurse a McLaren around Interlagos. And do you know how impossible that is? It's like trying to drive up your driveway in top gear. The car's bucking, almost stalling in the slow corners, and Mansell's absolutely flying behind him. But this is peak Senna. The guy's literally having muscle spasms from fighting the car. His body's cramping up, he's got a fever, and he's still somehow keeping this broken McLaren ahead. Every corner exit, he's praying the engine doesn't stall. When he finally crosses the line, he just starts screaming, pure emotion. They had to physically lift him out of the car, he couldn't even move. Medical car to the podium, could barely lift the trophy. That's not just winning a race, that's willing yourself to victory when the car's trying to quit on you. First home win after 8 years trying. Absolute warrior stuff. Donington 93, it's wet. Senna starts 4th, and what happens next is basically a masterclass in how to make everyone else look like they're driving in slow motion. Green light, by the 3rd corner he's past Schumacher, then he's absolutely sent it through the Craner curves and takes Wendlinger. Now he's hunting down Damon Hill, passes him at McLean's, 1 more to go. Prost is leading in the Williams thinking he's safe. Wrong. Senna dives up the inside of the Melbourne hairpin and just takes it. 4 cars past, 1 lap, in the wet, at Donington. And the best part, he did it all in completely different ways. Schumacher, patience then pounce. Wendlinger, pure commitment through the fast stuff. Hill, late braking masterclass. Prost, just pure I want this more than you. By the end of lap 1, he's already pulling away. The rest of the field's probably thinking, what What the hell just happened? That's not racing, that's art. In terrible conditions, in a car that wasn't even the fastest, Senna just decided he was winning and made it happen.
And after being crowded at the start, a quite brilliant couple of corners by Ayrton Senna. Tremendous stuff. He muscled his way back into contention at Redgate. He's going inside Damon Hill. And Senna into second place already.
The kid from Sao Paulo racing at home in a Tolman that's basically held together with hope and prayers. Everyone's watching the big names. De Angelis on pole, Alboreto in the Ferrari, Prost in the McLaren. Meanwhile, this rookie in car number 19 goes out and puts his backmarker Tolman in 17th. Doesn't sound impressive until you realise what he's working with. The Tolman TG183B is an absolute dog of a car. The Hart turbo engine is about as reliable as a chocolate teapot. Teams like McLaren are wrapping their cars in tinfoil to save fuel. And here's Senna wrestling this underpowered machine around Jacarapagua. He's 5 seconds off pole, but considering his teammate Cecotto is another second and a half behind him, you can see something special is happening. First time in an F1 car at his home race, massive pressure, terrible equipment, and he's already making teammates look ordinary. 8 laps into the race, the turbo blows and he's out. But those who were paying attention saw it. This wasn't just another rookie, this was the beginning of something extraordinary.
And we've got a pit stop already. It's Ayrton Silva de Senna, the young Brazilian. There he is coming into the pits with the Tolman. He's waving his hands at the mechanics. He's saying it's all over. His first Grand Prix is all over.
So, South Africa 84, race 2 of Senna's F1 career. The Tolman's still a disaster on wheels, but something's happening here. Qualifying 13th at Kyalami doesn't sound like much, but this is a power circuit where the turbo cars are hitting 325 kilometers per hour on the straight. Senna's Hart engine is basically a lawnmower compared to the BMWs and tags. He's 2 seconds off Piquet's pole, which in qualifying terms is an eternity. But here's where it gets interesting. The race turns into a war of attrition. Turbos blowing left and right. Piquet's gone, Fabi's gone, Mansell's turbo dies, and there's Senna, nursing that underpowered Tolman around, staying out of trouble and picking up places. 6th place, his first ever F1 point, in a car that has no business being in the points. While Lauda and Prost are a minute up the road in their McLarens, this kid's wrestling a Tolman into the top 6. The significance? This isn't about speed yet, it's about racecraft. Taking a terrible car and maximising it, not making mistakes when the big names are falling apart around you. That's the intelligence that would later become legendary. Second race, first point. The apprenticeship was already paying off.
Ayrton Senna firmly cemented his name as a driver to watch at the 1984 South African Grand Prix.
And Ayrton Senna is now in 6th position and on a World Championship point.
Portugal 84 season finale. The championship's going down to the wire between Lauda and Prost, and there's Senna starting 3rd in that Tolman. This is massive, qualifying ahead of both Williams, ahead of Lauda, only behind Piquet and Prost. The race turns into something special. While everyone's watching the championship battle, Senna's quietly having one of the drives of his life. The Tolman shouldn't be anywhere near the podium, but he's up there mixing it with the McLarens. 3rd place, first podium, behind 2 future triple world champions who are deciding the title by half a point. And Senna's right there with them, 20 seconds behind in a car that's basically held together with duct tape and determination. The significance is huge. This isn't just a podium, it's an announcement. The 3 drivers on that podium would win 13 world championships between them. You've got Lauda at the end of his career, Prost in his prime, and this kid Senna who's just shown everyone what's coming. In a Tolman, at a power circuit, beating factory Renaults, Williams, Hondas, Ferraris, that's not supposed to happen. But when you're Ayrton Senna, you make your own rules. First of 65 podiums, and he earned it the hard way. Monaco 84 was the race that changed everything. It's absolutely pouring, and Senna starts 13th in that Tolman. What happens next is basically F1 folklore. The rain's so bad they delayed the start 45 minutes. Bernie Eccleston actually gets a fire truck to hose down the tunnel because it's the only dry bit, and Lauda's complaining it's like an ice ring. Senna's carving through the field like they're standing still. 13th to 6th to 5th to 3rd. He passes René Arnoux Ferrari. Now he's hunting down Prost, who's leading but struggling with brake problems. The gap's shrinking, 2 seconds a lap. Lap 29, Prost's waving at the officials. Lap 31, he waves again. again. Lap 32, Jackie Ickx throws the red flag. Here's the controversy. Senna actually passes Prost before the line, but the results go back to lap 31. Prost wins, Senna second. Everyone's furious. Ickx gets suspended for not consulting the stewards, but honestly, nobody cares about the politics. What they just witnessed is a kid in a terrible car in his first Monaco, making the establishment look ordinary. 7 seconds behind and closing at 2 seconds per lap when they stopped it.
They are stopping. This is going to be the end of the Monaco Grand Prix with Alain Prost. And Prost is stopping. And Senna crosses the line before he gets there.
Race day at Estoril. Monsoon conditions. The Lotus team's bricking it. They haven't won in 3 years. Lights out. Senna just drives into another dimension. By lap 10, he's 13 seconds clear. By lap 20, it's 30 seconds. Behind him, it's absolute carnage. Prost spinning on the main straight. Rosberg's in the gravel. Piquet's in and out of the pits. Senna, he's running a gear higher than everyone else in the wet, managing that turbo power like he's got traction control 20 years early. He laps everyone except Alboreto. 2 hours of non-stop concentration in biblical conditions. When he crosses the line, Lotus mechanics are crying, running onto the track. First win since Colin Chapman died. Senna standing up, soaking wet, arms raised. Even he later called it his greatest drive.
And you can see that this usually totally unflappable, imperturbable Brazilian is for once absolutely beside himself with, look at him, both hands waving with joy.
This race was such a mess, it had to be postponed from June to September because the track literally fell apart. But when they finally ran it, Senna delivered another masterclass. Rain before the start, Senna's on the front row next to Prost. Lights out, and he mugs Prost immediately, but the real action's behind. Piquet spins his Brabham at La Source on lap 1, amateur hour from the former world champion. Senna's in his element. Wet Spa, 1985 turbo cars with 900 horsepower and no traction control. This is basically a death trap. But he's pulling away like it's a Sunday drive. Behind him, chaos. Both Ferraris are out early. Alboreto's clutch explodes after 3 laps. Johansson bins it at Kemmel. The track starts drying. Everyone drives for slicks. Then, because Spa gonna Spa, it starts raining again late in the race. Senna just extends his lead even more, 28 seconds over Mansell at the flag. Best bit, after taking the checkered flag, the marshals try to direct him straight to the pits. Senna's like, nah mate, and does a victory lap anyway. Second win, first at Spa, pure class.
It was very good for the team, especially to win another race after such a long time early in the year. And good to be on the roster, especially on the top spot once more.
Senna starts from pole, but this isn't going to be a cruise. Halfway through the race, it's a 3-way scrap between him, Mansell and Prost. Proper wheel-to-wheel stuff, nose to tail for lap after lap. These are 3 of the best ever, going at it hammer and tongs around Jerez. Then Mansell pits for fresh tyres with about 10 laps to go. Game changer. He comes out 19 seconds behind and just sends it. Fresh rubber versus worn tyres. He's taking chunks out of the gap every lap. Final lap, Mansell's right on Senna's gearbox. They're side by side through the last corner, drag racing to the line. Senna's weaving, blocking, doing everything he can. They cross the line together, 0.014 seconds. That's not a gap, that's a photo finish. Third closest finish in F1 history. Mansell could have been angry about the blocking, but afterwards he just laughs and says maybe they should just split the points. That's racing. When it's that good, that close, that pure, you just tip your hat and appreciate what you've been part of.
From the green light to the flag was no time to think on anything else apart from driving as quick as possible.
I've never worked so hard in my whole career. I think it was so close. I think they should give us 7.5 points each.
Finally, after 3 years of what-ifs and should-have-beens, Senna gets his first Monaco win. The Lotus had this new active suspension system, basically a computer trying to keep the car level over Monaco's bumps. Revolutionary stuff for 1987, even if it's still pretty crude. Senna qualifies second behind Mansell's Williams. Now, Senna and Mansell properly hate each other by this point. They'd crashed at Spa the year before, and that finish at Jerez where Senna beat him by 0.014 seconds, yeah, Mansell hadn't forgotten that. Race starts. Mansell pulls away. He's 11 seconds up the road, looking comfortable in the superior Williams. Then lap 29. Bang! Honda engine goes pop. Mansell's out. Senna inherits the lead. From there, it's a masterclass. 49 laps of perfection around Monaco's streets. No mistakes, no drama, just precision. Wins by 33 seconds from Piquet. And the best bit, on the podium, Senna's so pumped he accidentally sprays champagne all over Prince Rainier. Protocol? What protocol? This is pure joy.
Ayrton Senna, vibração da Lotus, o Brasil inteiro vibra! Ayrton Senna, do Brasil!
Monaco 88, Senna's legendary pole lap. He's in the McLaren MP44 and enters what he later called another dimension. The numbers are staggering. 1 minute 23.998 seconds, which was 1.427 seconds faster than Prost in the identical car. At Monaco, that gap is astronomical. What makes this lap so special isn't just the time, it's what Senna described afterward. He said the track became a tunnel, that he was driving beyond conscious understanding, like he was on rails. He was going faster and faster, first by tenths, then half a second, then over a second ahead of everyone. At one point, he was over 2 seconds quicker than anyone else on track. He got so deep into this trance-like state that it scared him. When he came back to the pits, he refused to go out again. I realized I was well beyond my conscious understanding, he said.
I've never seen a lap like it. Power down at the last corner. And across the line. Has he done it? He has! Pole position! 1 minute 23.998 seconds.
The race where Senna wins his first world championship in the most dramatic fashion possible. McLaren front row lockout, number 11 of the season. Senna on pole, Prost alongside. Lights out and disaster. Senna stalls on the grid, but Suzuka's got a sloping grid, so he bump starts the car and drops to 14th. What follows is vintage Senna. By the end of lap 1, he's 8th. By lap 4, he's 4th, having carved through Patrese, Boutsen, Nannini and Alboreto like they're standing still. Meanwhile, Prost leading, but his gearbox is playing up. Then the rain starts on lap 14. Senna's moment. He's hunting down Prost, and the conditions are perfect. Wet patches, dry patches, traffic everywhere. Lap 27, they hit a group of backmarkers. Senna forces his way through while Prost gets stuck behind De Cesaris. And that's it, Senna's through and gone. He breaks the lap record in the wet, builds a lead, even gestures for the race to be stopped because it's getting dangerous. They keep going. Senna wins by 13 seconds. First World Championship, 8th win of the season, a new record. And he's doing it at Honda's home track, coming from 14th on the grid. Pure Senna magic. The championship was decided with one race to spare, but this was the perfect way to seal it.
Ayrton Senna crosses the line and you can see his exultation. He knows he is the world champion of 1987. Both hands off the wheel. This man, who is usually very quiet and calm in the cockpit, reaches his hands up to lift his visor.
Spain 90, Jerez, Senna's 50th pole position. The McLaren MP45B is hooked up and Senna breaks the track record. The gap to Prost's Ferrari is massive, so big that TV broadcasts later showed both laps side by side to figure out where the time's coming from. Every corner, every braking zone, Senna's finding time that shouldn't be there. The Honda V10 at full chat, the car right on the edge through the whole lap. McLaren give him a cake afterwards to mark 50 poles. He's already rewritten what was possible in qualifying and still had 50 more poles to come. This is 1990, peak Senna versus Prost rivalry, McLaren versus Ferrari, at a tight technical track like Jerez where you're fighting for tenths. Senna's not finding tenths, he's finding seconds. That's the difference between fast and untouchable.
Let's wait to see. 18.387, he has done it by half a second. The guy is remarkable, and remember, he was confronted with two cars halfway around the lap, side by side, gesticulating at each other.
Belgium 92, Spa-Francorchamps. Friday practice, this is the Senna moment that had nothing to do with speed. Eric Comas crashes hard at Blanchimont, one of the fastest corners in F1. His Ligier ends up stopped in the middle of the track. Comas is unconscious, foot still on the throttle, engine screaming at full revs. Senna's coming through on a flying lap. He sees the accident, immediately stops his McLaren and sprints across the track. No hesitation. He reaches into Comas's cockpit and switches off the engine. The Ligier has been bouncing off the rev limiter with fuel pumping through. One spark and the whole thing could have gone up. The marshals and medical team arrive after Senna's already made the situation safe. Comas later said it straight. Ayrton Senna saved my life. This is 1992, no halo, no modern safety standards, just one driver seeing another in trouble and acting instantly. Senna could have driven past, let the marshals handle it. Instead, he risked his own safety running across a live racetrack. That's the measure of the man. All the poles, wins and championships, they're just numbers. This moment at Spa, this is character, pure instinct to help, no matter the risk to himself.
Friday morning was nice and sunny, but not for Eric Comas, who crashed heavily in the fast Blanchimont sweep before the pits. Ayrton Senna was the first to reach the scene of the crash, and he rushed to help the motionless Frenchman.
This is pure racing theatre. Mansell's Williams is untouchable. 5 wins from 5 races, pole position, leading comfortably for 70 laps. Then lap 71. Mansell feels something wrong, thinks it's a puncture, later turns out to be a loose wheel nut. He dives into the pit, emerges behind Senna's McLaren with 7 laps to go. Now it's on. Mansell on fresh tyres in the superior car, immediately breaking the lap record. He's 2 seconds a lap faster than Senna. The gap shrinks, 5.2 seconds, then 1.9 in just 2 laps. Final 3 laps, Mansell's all over the back of Senna. The McLaren's tyres are shot. Senna later said it was like driving on ice, but this is Monaco, and Senna knows every trick. He places the car perfectly, second-guessing every move Mansell tries. They cross the line separated by 0.215 seconds. Mansell's so exhausted he needs help climbing the steps to collect his trophy. In the press conference, he compliments Senna for fair but hard racing. No complaints, just respect. 5th Monaco win for Senna, equaling Graham Hill's record, on dead tyres in an inferior car, holding off a charging Mansell. That's not luck, that's mastery of the art of defensive driving.
It's only the left here, the right again, the left, and into the racecraft, and I do not see how Mansell, even Nigel Mansell on fresh tyres, is going to be able to get by. Mansell closes, but it's too late, and Ayrton Senna wins at Monaco for the 5th time in 6 years.
Nobody knew at the time, but Adelaide 1993 would be Senna's last win. First pole position in over a year, breaking Williams' streak of 24 consecutive poles. The McLaren Ford is 15 kilometers per hour slower than the Williams on the straight, but Senna doesn't care. He's on a mission. Takes 3 attempts to start the race, 2 aborted starts due to stalled cars. When they finally get going, Senna leads from pole and never looks back. Prost and the Williams can't touch him. This is vintage Senna, controlling the race from the front, managing the gap and making it look easy. 9 seconds ahead of Prost at the flag, with Hill another 24 seconds back. Win number 41. The beautiful moment comes on the podium. Senna invites Prost, in his final race before retirement, up to the top step. After years of bitter rivalry, a gesture of respect. The crowd goes wild. Later that night, Senna even appears on stage with Tina Turner at the post-race concert. Senna called it the end of an era. He was more right than he knew. This would be his last finish, his last point, his last podium. 5 months later, he'd be gone. But on this day in Adelaide, he was still the master, still untouchable when everything clicked. One last perfect Sunday.
É a última curva para Senna. Aí vem ele, na ponta dos dedos. Tem musiquinha de novo para você. Ayrton Senna do Brasil!
At Interlagos in 1993, Senna wasn't in the best car. The Williams was quicker and Prost started on pole. But when the rain hit mid-race, everything changed. Senna had already served a stop-go penalty and dropped behind Schumacher, but in the chaos of changing conditions, he stayed sharp. While Prost gambled and stayed on slicks, Senna switched to wets at exactly the right time. Moments later, Prost crashed out trying to avoid Fittipaldi's stranded car. As the tracks dried again, Senna made another perfect call to return to slicks. He passed Hill for the lead and managed the gap to the end. It wasn't domination, it was survival, precision and timing. When others spun or misjudged, Senna adapted. He won by over 16 seconds, giving McLaren its 100th Grand Prix victory, and more than anything, it showed how good Senna really was when conditions turned unpredictable. Rain was never a problem, it was an opportunity.
Ayrton Senna na ponta dos dedos. Ayrton, Ayrton,
In his first race for Williams, Ayrton Senna delivered exactly what the fans came to see. The car was difficult to handle after the new regulations stripped away electronic aids, but Senna still found the limit. He took pole with a time of 1 minute 15.962 seconds, beating Schumacher by just over 3/10. It wasn't a dominant performance, but it was a clear statement. The next closest car, a Alesi's Ferrari, was over a second behind. Senna was still the fastest when it mattered, even with a car that was not fully sorted. This was his 64th career pole, and his first with Williams. The crowd at Interlagos exploded as he crossed the line. It felt like the start of a new chapter. In reality, it was the end of one. Senna didn't dominate every race or win every championship, but when he was at his best, the gap between him and the rest was obvious. It wasn't always about results, it was about how he did it, the decisions, the feel for the car, the timing. These moments have lasted because they show a level of execution that few could match. Long after the numbers fade, these are the drives that still speak for themselves. Now, this has been Racers Reverie, and we'll see you in the next one.